Good afternoon. I'm joined by the Minister for Education and the Attorney-General as well, who will be making some announcements on some critical areas as a result of some of the decisions we've been taking and the work that is being done. But before I do that, I'd just like to run through a few things. 10 weeks ago, this week, ahead of the rest of the world, Australia listed the coronavirus as a disease with pandemic potential under our Biosecurity Act following the outbreak of coronavirus in Wuhan, China. We stood up our Incident Response Centre at that time, and I visited on the 22nd of January. Some of you joined me there on that day. We set up quarantine facilities soon after that on Christmas Island and ultimately later in Northern Territory, and we repatriated families and individuals from Wuhan, China, who had been affected by that initial outbreak area. The expert medical panel was stood up and has met every day since the 31st of January. On the 1st of February, we started closing the borders to visitors coming from mainland China, and one of the first countries in the world indeed to do so. The Chinese-Australian community did an amazing job in those early days of the spread of the coronavirus. They have been an early example to the rest of the country as the broader implications are now being experienced and the measures that have been taken. They showed all Australians back then how to do this, and I want to thank them very, very much for the example that they set in those early phases. Containing and limiting the spread of the virus that had come from China in those early days was incredibly important and has put Australia in the position that we have been in now for these many weeks, where we've been able to get ahead of this more so than many other countries around the world. 5 weeks ago, a fortnight before the World Health Organization, we called out the coronavirus as a pandemic, and we activated the emergency response plan on that basis. Further border closures and measures were announced and implemented. 3 weeks ago, our first economic package was released, and that has now been scaled up, as you know, just in terms of fiscal measures of the Commonwealth, to some $200 billion, with the Reserve Bank and the Australian Office of Financial Management adding a further $105 billion to that total through their support of liquidity in financial markets. The National Cabinet was formed soon after that and started to put in place the many social distancing and other restrictions, and they've been upgraded ever since. Today, emergency powers are in place across all the states and territories and at a Commonwealth level, with a very clear message when it comes to the measures we need to have in place to continue to save lives and to save livelihoods. Stay at home. Unless you're out there exercising, getting medical care, you're going to work or education. These are important, or getting things that you need at the shops. These measures are being implemented as was agreed by the National Cabinet, by the states and territories, with the enforcement arrangements that they believe are necessary to ensure that those social distancing and other restrictions are effectively implemented in their states and territories according to the circumstances in their states and territories. And as we know, over these last couple of weeks, and particularly in this last week, this is getting very, very real for Australians as they continue to adapt and change their daily lives to what it is going to be like for us for many months ahead. We are one of the few, if only, countries that have been talking about the coronavirus pandemic as being one that we are going to have to live with for at least the next 6 months. I've been very clear about that for a very simple reason. I really want Australians to understand that we need to be in this for that haul. It will be months. We need to make changes that we can live with and that we can implement day after day, week after week, month after month. And so making your changes to your daily lives and how you do things and the other changes that are being put in place, we have sought at all times to make them sustainable, to make them scalable. because this gives us the opportunity, as this happens, to prepare more and more and to strengthen the position we're in. So we can get more ICU beds in place, so we can get more PPE, that personal protection equipment, installed, that we can get more ventilators, and then we can even better prepare our community for the changes and impacts that will come. We are slowing the spread. That is happening. And that is saving lives, and it is saving livelihoods. And again, I thank Australians for their support. The rate of growth, as we've seen, particularly over the course of this week, has fallen to, on a daily basis, single-digit numbers, and that's welcome, but it's still not enough. And in particular, we're watching those community transmission numbers very carefully, as are the states and territories most affected. Over these many weeks, there have been announcements on aged care, health systems, domestic violence support, emergency relief, private hospitals. Many responses, unprecedented responses. It's creating a new normal in Australia during this virus, a new baseline as we fight the virus and we fight the economic threats that it poses. Today we are making further announcements. Childcare and early childhood education is critical, particularly for those Australians who rely on it so they can go to work every day, particularly those who are working in such critical areas. And as I said, critical areas aren't just the obvious ones. It's not just the doctors or the nurses who are at the hospitals, it's the cleaners at the hospitals as well. It's the people driving trucks to get food out to supermarkets and ensure the supplies continue to run. If you have a job in this economy, then that's an essential job, in my view, in terms of the running of the economy. And it's important that all those parents who have children, that they get access to the childcare and that those facilities will be there for them in the many months ahead. The Education Minister will take you through the specifics, but what we will be doing is we'll be ensuring for those parents who are still in that position where they are needing that childcare, it will be free. And we'll be putting in place support arrangements to the childcare facilities, some 13,000 of them, to ensure that they'll be able to remain open and be there for those parents to ensure that they can do what they need to do each day. Just like it's essential that those schools that are out there, that they can take the children they need to take each day from those same parents so we can continue running Australia each and every day.